everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of Bill Has Opinions, Part 2. I'm Laura Lavoie, and I'm joined by Bill Perkins, who, of course, has opinions.
And this time it's personal.
So, the original joke I had written was Bill Has Opinions Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. But then I felt bad because the fucking white supremacists took that over a couple years ago.
The Boogaloo?
Yeah, the Boogaloo movement, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, because they also ruined Hawaiian shirts for a brief moment. But I think we took them back. I feel like we took them back.
Well, did we take back Electric Boogaloo? Because I still think that's the best sequel name ever.
If we didn't, all we need to do is show up at a white supremacist rally, throw down some cardboard, and start dancing. and then they'll be like, okay, fuck this Boogaloo shit.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's pretty easy to upset, those guys, right? Like, and to make them feel like stupid.
Pretty easy to upset the white supremacists.
I think so.
As it turns out,
they're easily triggered for people who call other people snowflakes.
Yeah, no shit. All right. So we've just dove in here.
Yeah,
so welcome. How have you been, Bill?
I have a grievance, which I spoke with you briefly about earlier, and we'll get to that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
But other than that, I guess I'm mostly okay. I mean, I saw a beautiful sunset on the way over here this evening.
Nice.
Which is a thing that's happening now earlier and earlier.
That's true.
Yeah. For everyone at home, sing along with me. It gets dark so early.
It does. There's a comic that I've saved for years that was like, "Is it midnight? Why is it midnight?" And so the other one was like, "It's 5:30."
Yeah.
Why is it midnight?
It do be like that. Though we several times this past week, me and my wife both get home, and then we'll like maybe watch one TV show, and then we're like, we should go to bed.
Yeah, and you're like, it's 7:30.
And then we look at it, and it's like, oh yeah, it's 7:30. Like, it's crazy. But it feels like it's so late.
Right. So beautiful sunset made me think. So this is our first fall back in Asheville after being in Atlanta for 3 years.
Yeah.
Man, this fucking fall has been gorgeous.
Right?
It's been the best fall I have seen since I moved to Asheville 10 years ago.
I gotta say, I definitely think this is in probably, at least in the top 2 of really nice autumns. And the funny thing about it is, we get all the peepers here in October,
right?
And I don't really feel like it really went.
No,
it didn't pop until the first week of November. That's when it really went apeshit here, and it was great because those people were already gone, and you could just go out and enjoy the damn thing.
Exactly.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been stunning here, and I've been very, very, very pleased by it.
Absolutely. So, I have enjoyed myself driving around looking at leaves and things.
And even though it was like stupid cold this weekend, it felt like a perfect fall weekend.
Yeah. I got over to the Arboretum for a minute and walked around, looked at some stuff.
Nice. Wait, did you go back to the Renaissance Festival this weekend, or was the picture
last
weekend?
The picture you saw was from the previous weekend. It just got posted.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I didn't have time and no, I would not go back to the Renaissance Festival. Although I did see someone else's picture from the Renaissance Festival this past weekend, and it looked like the crowd had died down considerably.
And this past weekend, we were going to go, but then we had friends in from out of town and a 1-year-old birthday party to go to separately. But this weekend was Time Travelers Weekend, which was like dress, any cosplay.
Oh, so I could have worn my Will Riker costume.
You could have, yes.
Yeah.
And then you can do the thing I've always wanted to do, which is a total dad joke, is walk around a Renaissance Festival with a tricorder. Yeah. Be like, what are these strange life forms?
Right.
I always thought that would be funny, but apparently other people thought so too.
It's totally a thing now.
I mean, exactly. That's exactly right. All right. So what are you drinking?
Currently I am drinking a People's Porter by
Power to the People.
Power to the People, which I'll get back to later in the show, actually. By Foothills, which is out of Winston-Salem. It's always funny to me it's called Foothills and it's out of Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem is not remotely the foothills, right? That's actually the flatland part of the state.
Yep. But the beer is good.
But their beer is solid. They make good beer. I'm just commenting on the fact that it's called Foothills, and it's not remotely close to the fucking mountains, really.
That is fair.
I mean, I guess it's just, actually, I guess it's kind of like in the valley. Just below.
I guess technically that makes it the foothills.
I suppose so, because actually if you went like 20 miles north of there, in Virginia, you would be in the mountains.
Yeah,
It just feels like it's flat in North Carolina there. I don't know.
It does, and I guess maybe it's the foothills, more of the mountains that go up through Virginia than it is in the mountains in North Carolina.
Right, like it's nowhere near the mountains in North Carolina, but it is close to the mountains in Virginia. So,
all right, so
fair enough.
We stand corrected. So before the show, we have to point this out.
Yeah.
So we did talk about this last year on an actual winter beer show, but in Asheville, about this time of year, the entire city loses its collective mind over this here Cold Mountain.
Yeah.
In fact, I and Matt and myself and our weekend guests went to the Cold Mountain release party at Highland Brewing this weekend, and it was an absolute clusterfuck. But it was fun, and we enjoyed ourselves, and we drank beer.
Yeah.
But Cold Mountain, the release, has come out. So Bill graciously brought us a six-pack.
Yeah, serendipitously, I walked into a grocery store in South Carolina, which is like the closest grocery store to North Carolina in South Carolina. It's like the last exit before I get to my house, and I stopped there for gas because gas is 10 cents cheaper in South Carolina. And I was going to
save as many cents as you can right now.
Right now, it is a little, thanks, Joe Biden. Anyway, I stopped for gas, and then I was going to grab a sandwich, and I walked in there, and I was like, I'll cruise the beer aisle for just a sec to see if there's anything interesting. And lo and behold, something was interesting. They had a whole truckload of Cold Mountain sitting there, and apparently people in South Carolina could give fuck all about it, whereas it would have already been gone if it was in Asheville.
Oh yeah, in Asheville when there's
anywhere actually on this side of North Carolina, like even if it had been 5 miles north of there, it would have been gone
for sure. Yeah, no, in Asheville, a Cold Mountain display is like the Cabbage Patch Kids of the early 80s, like where people were literally fighting each other for dolls. That's what it's like to buy Cold Mountain.
But I grabbed 2 6-packs because nobody could give fuck all about it. Like I can probably go back over there on Thursday and buy more.
So what makes it unique every year is that they change the recipe up a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So you never know what you're going to get.
It's like a box of chocolates.
So here's what I want to do. I want to challenge the Asheville community. Somebody needs to do a catalog of every year since Cold Mountain's been released, what the flavor profile was.
what the note is there.
Because by the next year, I've forgotten what last year's tastes like.
I bet you that's on the internet somewhere. It's gotta be.
So
we'll research it and find
what I will say is I enjoyed this year's a little better than Bill did.
Yeah, I think it's too spicy this year. I don't taste any vanilla. I like it when it leads with some vanilla, and this year I taste a lot of, I want to say coriander maybe. It's a spice I'm not loving.
Actually, that was what our friend Susan said. She said cardamom.
Okay,
and that could be it.
Yeah, one of them things.
Yeah, she came right out with the cardamom when she was tasting it. So I'm like, that sounds official.
It's got it reminds me a lot because I've been drinking. It's been fall and I've been drinking the pumpkin beers, and it's got the same kind of notes as the pumpkin beers. I'll tell you what, actually, while we're talking about holiday beers, the one I've been digging that I actually do like, and it's a spiced winter ale too, but it's not as spicy as this one, is out of Hickory. It's called Christmas Ale from Hickory, Old Hickory. Brewery.
Out of Hickory.
Out of Hickory. They had that on tap at the Purple Onion, and I've been drinking that straight lately. So. Nice.
And we have it. Maybe we'll do it later in the season. But I bought recently at Highwire Brewing. They do a imperial stout style called 10W40. Named for the oil. But they did a gingerbread one, and I thought that was just chef's kiss perfect.
Oh yeah.
But right now I'm going back to the Bell's Porter here.
Okay. Not for the people though.
Not for the people, just regular porter
for you.
And then after that I've got regular porter from Green Man if I'm feeling squirrely and whatnot.
I had one of those yesterday and really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Green Man's always a good porter. If you want a good porter or stout, Green Man won't let you down.
It's true. And for me,
actually, I like their lager too.
I actually like Green Man's beer in general. But it's been porters and stout seasons for me pretty much since October. Like I had a IPA the other day, or we were up at the Grove Park.
Weird.
It really did. I was like, this is this is really really bitter.
Yeah.
And I love IPAs, but I was like, you know what? I'm just not into them right now.
Not feeling it because it's once the weather gets cold, you just really want that brown beer.
I do.
Yeah.
I really do. All right. So let's get into the actual meat of our show this time.
All right.
Shall we? So this is a big topic. Usually it's a one-word topic or maybe 2 words, but we got 3 words today. 3 whole words.
I know, and we're not even gonna scratch the surface.
No, we are not.
We could have like 3 episodes on this.
We probably could. I mean, we could probably do one of each, and maybe we'll decide to do that later, or we'll return to this.
Yeah.
But, so we went with sequels, reboots, and retellings. So any sort of movie adaptation, sequels to movies, reboots.
I don't even think it's just movies. It could be TV shows or books.
Or books, yes.
Or books.
100%.
Because there's a thing going around right now that I want to get to in this topic. So
well, and like reboots, I think is an interesting term because I never even heard that term until the new Battlestar Galactica came out, and then all of a sudden everything was a reboot. Oh,
right. So yeah,
like nothing was a reboot before that, and all of a sudden everything was.
That's true. It was either a sequel or
just a new thing with a new name.
Yeah. Well, I guess that was probably the first time it really happened that they just like started the thing over again. Wasn't it?
Yeah. But then everything after that was like, I'm fucking rebooting.
Well, it's because like we were out of fucking ideas or something.
Well, and reboot is a very 90s to early 2000s term. Like we didn't even know what a reboot would have been, except that it's like it's computer language.
Yeah,
right?
reboot.
Like,
you turn the computer off, turn it back on again.
Yeah, it's the
and that's what happens with these shows.
It's true.
It's not like it's run its course. Let's just turn it off, turn it back on again.
Exactly. So let's start as we often do. Can you give us a monologue on these 3 subjects?
Yeah. Well, I guess so. My earliest recollection will be of sequels, right? Because that was probably like as a child. And it would have been Star Wars, obviously, because that was like the first thing that ever happened in my life that was a sequel. But Star Wars, then Star Trek, that was kind of both a. What was that?
It actually encompasses all of them, to be honest, right? Like
the Star Trek movies. I mean,
well, you had the show that spawned movies, and then there were sequels of those movies, right? But then you had reboots of those series with the Next Generation and Voyager,
and then you've got the new version of like where they went back and redid James T. Kirk and Spock, and
which would be a retelling, I would think, or
is it a reboot?
Both, all the above.
It's both.
Hey, Toast.
Toast is in the house.
It was just her big old head. That's my cat. Everybody say hi. All right, Toast is over here now, so. Okay. That was awesome. Her whole big old head right in front of the camera.
I was like, let's see how this goes.
I was going to see how that went too.
Yeah, so all the Star things were the sequels I remember. And then also, I guess, Jaws 2, which actually Jaws 2 was the beginning of sequels. Right? As we know them today. I would say there were obviously movies, there were like the road movies with Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and shit like that. But Jaws 2 was the beginning of the modern sequel, where they decided to just milk something for fucking money.
Right. From there was born, the
joke I made earlier,
and Halloween and all that. Right?
Yeah. The joke I made earlier, the this time it's personal. That's actually from Jaws 2. So Jaws 2, and is a sequel in the purest sense of they basically made the same fucking movie again. Changed a few details, and hey, I guess you'll sit through it twice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly the same shit.
Well,
they changed a few things. Like this time, the shark bites a helicopter.
Right.
Look at that.
Oh, that's funny. Well, and I mean, I think that's exactly right. Like some of those, like when that started, in the sequels in the 80s, like all the cheesy horror movies and stuff.
Everything had a sequel.
Like it was just stupid. Like one of the ones I wanted to mention at one point was there was the cheesy horror movie Leprechaun, starring Warwick Davis, because Warwick Davis was like, you pay me, I'll do a movie. And then they made like one of the sequels was like Leprechaun 2 Back to the Hood.
No, yeah, I think it's 3.
Is that 3? It doesn't matter which one
Leprechaun
it
in the
is.
Hood, it's got Ice-T in it.
Yes.
And you know what's funny? I got a friend who actually, he's a big fan of Body Count, and he's seen them like 3 or 4 times live. But he likes to get up to the front of the stage, and he likes to, between songs, he taunts Ice-T by quoting Leprechaun.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And Ice-T, this is funny actually, if you read anything about Ice-T, his attitude about movie making is, if you're offering me a paycheck, I will fucking do it. Like, he feels like it's snooty to turn down money. You know, like,
right.
Like the idea that somebody's going to pay you to be in some tomfoolery, you're going to have to show up and do this thing, and you're going to get paid crazy money. He's like, to say no to that is the height of like dickishness, basically, to him. So he's like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it.
Yeah. No, he is definitely one of those people that do it.
And if you look at his IMDb, you'll see that is true.
Exactly.
I mean, he's probably second only to Nick Cage and like won't turn shit down.
Now, so at one point, this is slightly unrelated. At one point, Christopher Lee had the highest number of movie credits. Yeah. Of course, he died. So I keep thinking now, like, the person that's in the lead of that is Patton Oswalt. Like, Patton Oswalt, you turn on TV and he's on everything.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing Patton Oswalt isn't on.
Patton Oswalt is like, and him and Ed Begley Jr.
Sure, yes.
That guy, if you need somebody to be your dad, Ed Begley Jr. is going to be that guy.
He is totally the dad in so many shows.
I swear to God, like 2 years ago, everything I watched, if there was a dad or a stepdad or some shit, like Ed Begley Jr. would show up at some point. You'd be like, motherfucker, there's that guy again, you know? Like,
there you are. So I did want to point out here, particularly to Bill, but because I Googled worst names of sequels.
Okay.
So I landed on this because it's actually one of my favorite sequel names was Teen Wolf 2, which starred Jason Bateman.
Right.
And a few years ago, I was joking about getting a cat.
Yeah, you were going to get a werewolf cat.
I was going to get a werewolf cat. The weird, they're called Lycans.
Lycans, yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to name the cat, like the full name would be Teen Wolf 2 starring Jason Bateman.
That was one of the 16. You had a list of names, as I recall. It was like Lil Mooney.
No, there was Moon, Michael Jackson's Thriller, Lon Chaney Jr., and some other things, and then Teen Wolf 2 starring Jason Bateman. But it had to be the full thing. It had to be starring Jason Bateman.
Right.
And it made me laugh. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah, no, Teen Wolf 2 was a total. That's actually when you know something's a real cash in, is when they can't even get their original cast.
Exactly.
So they just change a thing and say, fuck it, whatever, we'll keep going.
Yeah, that literally, I could imagine the pitch meeting for that was like, all right, who's the next Michael J. Fox? Who we got? Who's the next Michael J. Fox?
Obviously, they came up with Teen Wolf 2, and they went to Michael J. Fox and said, hey, will you do another Teen Wolf movie? And he was like, fuck that. No, I'm out. That wasn't a good movie. I'm not doing 2 of them.
Well, and the premise of Teen Wolf 2 is it's like his cousin.
Yeah,
so it's just another kid that has wolf powers. It's basically the same movie over again.
Exactly.
Much like the original Jaws. All right. So, also, folks, if you're watching, we love your comments. So, do comment.
Yeah, feel free to say a thing.
Anything.
Or 2. Or 3.
Part 1, part 2, or 3. Who should we just... Oh, wait, actually, I take this back. We had a completely separate brand that we wanted to pimp today.
Oh, that's right. You were going to say something.
I was going to say something, so let me pull up their website because it seemed awesome. So we were having this conversation before the show. There's a local food truck in Asheville that we are suddenly determining is the best food truck ever.
Just because it's a silly pun.
Correct.
And it totally sort of misses the mark almost. Or hits the mark.
Or does it?
It hits the mark in a completely Gen X kind of way.
Yeah.
Which is to say it's got a target demographic, I suppose.
Which is us. Yes. So it is a food truck in town that is called Feta Flav.
Yeah, boy.
It is a Greek food truck. Oh, why can't I find their logo? I just want to show it to the camera. Here we go. Feta Flav. Get that there. Get a little Feta Flav. So yeah, it is purely Gen X. Like most people who go to this food truck aren't going to even know who Flava Flav was. I'm so white. I said Flavor Flav.
Flavor.
Yeah, Flavor Flav.
Flavor Flav.
But so it is the most ridiculous joke. But the best part was all of their food products. It's a Greek food truck. If you haven't figured that out yet,
Yeah,
are all puns too.
Yeah, they were, and some of them were so punny that they didn't make any fucking sense.
Correct. But the reason why I was asked to do a shout out on this show, we know nothing about this food truck. We've never eaten from them before. Doesn't matter. The reason we are told to do this on the show was their Greek salad is called Please Remain Calm. And we all laughed for a while. So we said we needed to talk
It's
about it.
better than all of the other food trucks.
I will say this is not a reboot, a retelling, or a sequel, unless it's a retelling because it was a movie made of book, which gets us into very fine points. But All of the Other Reindeer, the movie, is one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah.
It's a good Christmas movie right there.
Right.
It's
okay.
Very, very worth watching. All right, so that was our...
if you think about it, so while we're on the topic, if you think about it, I mean, Rudolph is kind of a retelling because it's like taking The Night Before Christmas and a list of reindeers and going, hey, what if there was another reindeer tagged onto that shit, right?
Sure.
That's kind of how I know it's based on this. It started out with a song by Gene Autry.
No.
Oh, it was an advertising thing, wasn't it?
It was an advertising campaign for Montgomery Ward, where I worked in high school.
Montgomery Ward.
Is
that even still a fucking thing?
I don't think so.
Are they bankrupt?
I don't think so.
They're out of business?
I mean, I worked there in the 90s. I can't imagine there's still a thing where retail stores aren't a thing. Like JCPenney isn't a thing anymore.
Is that gone?
Kmart's not a thing anymore. Sears is not a thing anymore.
Man.
None of them are. So I imagine Montgomery Ward is not. But yeah, it was their advertising campaign. Someone created a character, like one of their marketing people. And then, I guess, their brother-in-law's cousin's second best friend knew Gene Autry or somebody. And that's how it became a song. And now it's beloved. And then
it became a fucking
animated special.
Animated special with puppets.
Which I would say the animated special is 100% a retelling because it was a song, and then
we took a song and made and that's the thing, man. If you can take a song and spin that into a fucking half-hour Christmas special, they made a cartoon of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
I do remember that, yeah.
And it's pretty fucking awful. The song tells the whole fucking story. You don't really need, you don't need. At least the Rudolph one kind of goes off the rails and does other things.
Right, there's a story. There's a whole story.
There's all this shit that didn't happen in the song is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? There's the Misfit toys and the abdominal snowman and Yukon Cornelius.
Did you just call him an abdominal?
That's what
snowman?
I call him because he works out.
Hold on. Okay. All right. We'll go there. I will stick with that. I always called him Bumble because that's what they called him on the show.
Yeah.
All right. I'm for it. Okay. So here's what we're going to do some basic definitions, right? So what is a sequel?
Oh, so a sequel is this thing worked okay. Let's make more money off of it.
That's fair.
Let's just make another one.
Yes. And we were talking about last week, books.
Yeah,
you can't even sell a book idea now to a publisher.
Well, in certain genres, right?
Certain genres.
But certainly, if it's a sci-fi or horror or something like that, they're gonna bug you if you come in with a solid one book. They're gonna go, okay, but can we stretch this out and somehow make 3 out of it? They're gonna pressure you to do that. And I've sat in panels with authors at DragonCon where they basically explain the reason my fucking book is a trilogy is because my publisher and my editor badgered me into this shit. And it would have been a solid good single book.
Right. Right.
But now it's bullshit because they made me make it a trilogy.
Well, exactly. So I think a good illustrative example of this would be how the movie version, so The Hobbit was a nice standalone children's story, and then Peter Jackson was like, let me make 3 movies out of that, and it's just, it's like 9 hours of garbage.
I still haven't seen it because I knew when they said there was going to be more than one, I was like, fuck that shit, I read that in a weekend. I was like, that's a quick read.
Yeah.
Like, that's like making, we're going to make Ethan Frome a miniseries. Like, I don't know if you might not get the reference. Ethan Frome was like the shortest fucking classic book you could read for your English.
Yeah.
You had to do like your book report.
You looked at your list and you're like, what's the shortest one I can read?
And so and it's a good story. It's not a bad story, but it's like a novella. It's like or maybe it's like 2 pages longer than a novella, so it counts as a fucking book.
Sure, yeah.
But it's the shortest fucking thing you could read, and it's a good story. I actually did like it a lot. I would say, hey guys, read that if you want a good story, and you'll be done with it in 2 hours or whatever.
Sure.
But it's a quick read.
Yeah, that's fair. So actually, fun fact right here: The Great Gatsby as a novel is only like 50,000 words.
Yeah, that's true. That was also a quick read, and which is one of the things I'm a fan of brevity. Like, if you can tell a story quickly, in and out, nobody gets hurt.
Except the movie is 3 hours long, and that's unnecessary.
It's totally unnecessary.
You don't need that.
No, that's.
Although I have to say, one of my favorite gags of all time, like this is how I love awkward comedy. It's fucking. I have to laugh at this all of the time, right? So Andy Kaufman, one of his stand-up shows that he did once, to a full house, was he stood on stage, opened The Great Gatsby, and started reading. And come on, that shit's funny.
Did you read the whole book? Well, yeah.
Well, until everybody walked out.
They were like, "Fuck this shit."
Like that shit's funny.
That is pretty
That's
funny
as hell.
I like that. Yeah,
that's good stuff. All right.
So
sequels. What else we got about sequels? I mean, we get to more later, but
sequels.
So I guess we've defined sequels, right?
Yeah. Sequels is you take a thing and you milk it.
You make more things.
You make more things.
You take one thing, you make more things.
I would say 90% of the time it didn't start out to be 2 things. I mean, there's a few sequels, there's a few trilogies I believe that started out to be trilogies, but most of them did not. Star Wars did not. I know a lot of people like to shit on the later trilogies of Star Wars and be like, it's like they're just milking the thing. But I'm like, if you do any research on it, you realize that he never thought he was making a series. Mm-hmm. He wanted to do Flash Gordon. He couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon. Yeah. So he made a movie that he wrote, and he stuck episode 4 at the beginning of it to make it look like you were coming into the middle of one of those Saturday morning trilogy things, or series.
Like a serial, yeah.
Yeah, like a serial. He just did that for aesthetic reasons, really. And then people kind of took that and ran with it, like, oh shit, this is like a whole fucking thing, right? And then he
make more.
Oh, well, it could be and they waved money at him, and he was like, okay, it is then, and there you go. So that's how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this about Star Wars. This is my little caveat on Star Wars, because I heard a lot of people my age, especially, bellyache about the second trilogy and the third trilogy. And I think the thing you're bellyaching about is that they don't feel the same way about it as they did about the first trilogy.
Right. Well, there's a logical explanation for that.
And that is that you are old and jaded, and you can't watch Star Wars with 5-year-old eyes again.
Yeah, no, leave it for the kids. Just let it go.
You know what? Because my kids who saw the second trilogy as a new thing loved the shit out of it. And actually, I'll say as time goes on, aside from Jar Jar Binks, I actually like it too. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
If you
I don't hate the trilogy.
If you just kind of forget about. Yeah, it's not my favorite thing, but at the same time, there's some things in it that are real.
Sure.
There's some moments of real fucking, first off, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, fucking brilliant, right? He's
sure.
the dude has to come in and basically play another dude who already established this character.
Right.
And he does it like gangbusters. Like, he does a young
Alec Guinness, yes.
like, to perfection.
Yes.
Which is why he's got a fucking series coming up, which I'm looking hella forward to. You know?
Which, so for the Star Wars point, like, you know, there's, it's called something. It's like the machete order or whatever. Like, where they tell you what order to actually watch the movies in, like the real movies, or how to watch them, blah, blah, blah. My only advice is for the prequels, which I guess is a category of sequel, right? So the original movies existed, and then they told the original story, and it just got weird. But my only piece of advice for watching the prequels is skip The Phantom Menace altogether. Listen to Weird Al Yankovic's The Saga Begins. You'll get the entire story. That's all you need. And then watch 2 and 3. That's all you need. That's all you got. You don't need the first one.
You get to watch Obi-Wan kick Darth Maul's ass in the first one.
Sure. Well, you could just watch the end of it.
Also,
that's also a great lyric in the song.
Qui-Gon Jinn is also a cool character.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Watch them. Watch them.
Also, I recommend listening to the Weird Al Yankovic songs.
I say you just watch them in the fucking release order. That's the way I like to do it.
All right.
That's my personal preference. 4, 5, 6.
1, 2,
1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
That's how you watch them.
All right.
Oh, I guess Rogue One somewhere in there.
I like Rogue One. And
Rogue One was a good story.
I liked Rogue One. I did not like Solo.
Solo could go to hell. You can just forget about that. That's like the Christmas special.
That is. Solo I found, what is we got? Yeah, no, I think it is not. That's what we got there. But Solo, like, I watching that movie in the theater, and I was like, this is a fucking heist movie.
Yeah.
I don't give any shits. And then at the end of the movie, it was like, I double-cross you. No, I double-cross you. No, I double-cross you. No, I double-cross you. Like, please stop double-crossing each other.
Triple take backsies.
I did not happen to like that movie.
I didn't. You know what? Yeah, I said this to everybody who listened to me, was that would have been a perfectly fine movie, not in the Star Wars universe. Like, you could have just made your own fucking sci-fi movie about
a heist movie of some sort.
Yeah, and called it something else, and fuck all with Star Wars. Like, because it was terrible as a Star Wars movie, but it was okay as just a movie.
So the only thing, and I did enjoy the sequels, the final trilogy, the last trilogy. I actually enjoyed them. But what I will say about them is there was so many politics involved in the making of it that the story got watered down.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, you had one director, and then they're like, never mind, you can't do the second one.
Right.
So the second director came in and said, I'm going to retcon everything the first director did. I'm going to do things completely different.
That's the thing I actually wish studios would just get their head out of their ass and let directors have a vision and do what they're going to do. They did the same thing with the fucking Justice League, honestly. That's what's wrong with it. Yeah. Is that they can't... The studio can't quit meddling and let the fucking directors have a say in what they want to do.
Yeah. I actually have, I come from a place, I'm not a huge DC fan, so you have to do that. But part of the reason, everybody was talking about the Snyder Cut, right? So, like, the original movie, he started it, and then he had a family tragedy, and he couldn't finish it. So then Joss Whedon, who turned out to be problematic as fuck, finished it, and it wasn't great. It just was not great.
Yeah.
Right? And then they did the Snyder Cut, which was supposed to be the original vision. So here's my issue with that. Now, recognize this is completely biased. But the Snyder Cut was 4 hours long.
I still haven't seen it because it's 4 hours long, and I ain't got the kind of time for shit.
I do not. Well, we watched it in 4 increments.
Okay,
like
fair.
We watched it but I was like, did they, because somebody said something about these are things that got cut from the movie. I'm like, nothing got cut from this. It's 4 hours long. There's nothing cut. Nothing's been cut. And it was just, that was kind of how
I will say in general, this is a thing, and this is not sequels or reboots or retellings related, but when they do director's cuts and they release the new longer version of the movie, that, like, you know, like they did this with The Exorcist and they did this with Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, yes.
I have never seen a director's cut of a movie where I've really been like, oh, well, that adds so much to it. Like, most of the time, I'm like, I can see why that wound up on the editing room floor. That's usually what my takeaway is like, I see why they cut that shit.
So the funny part about that is the only Blade Runner I've ever seen is the director's cut.
Well, it's only ones you get on DVD.
Well, true. But
first off,
so I don't know what the difference is.
The theatrical version isn't even fucking available anymore.
That's true.
Which is dumb as shit.
Well, let's go back to Star Wars in a second, though.
Yeah.
The other movie that they did that with was The Wicker Man, which is not a good movie to begin with.
The original Wicker Man? The one with
no, the original one. No, the original one.
Okay, from the 70s.
Yes, from the 70s with Christopher Lee. The version that ended up in the theater, they did a director's cut. They added in some scenes, but like they weren't even produced. Like you could actually tell like a quality difference.
Like a boom mic.
Yeah, it's just like it's just like it ends at a scene and then it cuts into like raw footage for a little while and then it's the
you see this guy go, step one.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I know that many people in my community are that movie is beloved, but neither version is that good, to be honest. They're cheesy. I mean, if you want to watch a B movie, that's what you're watching. And it doesn't matter which one you watch. But
I mean, the Bees.
The Bees, yeah. And speaking of remakes or reboots or whatever, right? Yeah. So The Wicker Man, a movie that did not need to be retold in
because nobody who fucking was it that beloved we should. Although, in all fairness, I would say this: like a good candidate for a remake actually is a movie that wasn't great to start with,
but only if it's done perfectly.
Oh yeah. Yes. You take a movie that wasn't done well to start with, and you go, hey, the narrative in that movie is really good. They just kind of flubbed it up. You know what would be here's a good candidate for a fucking remake.
But I forgot the bottle opener.
Oh shit! I got one home.
Oh, you got one. All right, keep talking and open my beer.
The perfect candidate for a remake, in my opinion, Event Horizon. That is a really good
All right.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I have. And
it's a really good concept for a movie, but it kind of goes ape shit in the second act or something.
Yeah.
And I feel like it has such potential. Like I loved. The first act was so good. I was really looking forward to a great horror movie when that came out, right?
Yeah.
Horror sci-fi. What do you want to call it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Alien, like horror sci-fi.
Yeah.
I actually think so. By the third act, it's fucking Hellraiser in space, is what it is, and it kind of goes off the fucking rails. I think if someone took that movie and gave it a good treatment. That could be one of those ones that was a fucking winner.
But didn't they made a bunch of sequels out of it that weren't?
Did they?
Yeah, but they weren't related.
Oh, weird. Okay.
So
you're not thinking of Cloverfield?
No, I
which everybody I know hates, but I love this idea. Like they're tertiarily related.
I'm with you. I love the entire Cloverfield property.
Yes, me too.
I do.
I've like everyone I've seen. I've been like, yes, and also yes.
100%. I am totally here for that. I think it is one of the best versions of movie making where you tell the one story was found footage, right? Which was all the rage after the Blair Witch Project.
Right.
And it was I thought that was freaking amazing. And then there were the Cloverfield 2, whatever it was actually called.
Cloverfield Lane or something.
Yeah, where it was Mary Elizabeth, who was it? Yeah, I love that actress. She's been in a
but it was basically
just like a bottle episode. Like it was all in one house. And it was so good. And it seemed.
But then at the end, it turns out because you think the whole thing is just some crazy guy abducted this woman. And then at the end, turns out, there are aliens.
Oh, yeah, aliens have attacked. So, I fucking love those movies.
And then the third one was this whole thing about, this kind of, Hadron Collider out in space or some shit. That maybe the nexus for the entire fucking series, because it turns out that's the thing that caused, some sort of temporal or a fucking... dimensional rift that allows the monsters into our universe or some shit like that. Anyway, I'm and that one was so poorly received, there might not ever be a fourth one, but if there ever is, I'm down for it. That shit is my jam. I loved all of them.
All right, so I'm thinking of a different movie than Event Horizon. I did see Event Horizon too, but I'm thinking of a different movie, and viewer, if you happen to know this, There was another movie, and it starred Vin Diesel, and it was like an alien style movie where.
Oh, you're thinking of the Riddick movies, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But the first one wasn't a Riddick movie, and then they made a shit ton of other movies.
Yeah, the first one was called Pitch Dark.
Pitch Dark,
and it took place on
That's the one.
And then they liked the character that he played so much that they split it off into a fucking series.
Which I think that falls into our category of shitty sequels.
Shitty sequels, yeah. It totally got shittier. Although that being said, like the third one, people hated the second one. People liked. Was it this? Wait. No, it was probably the second one people liked. That was the one where I can't remember. Goddamn, which one was it? Where it also had Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes,
that's the one people liked.
Yes, and then it became like a whole thing.
Anyway, yeah.
So we spent a lot of time. So we're not going to get to anywhere near everything.
No, we're not.
So let's do another
Reboots.
quick. Let's do a quick definition here. What's a reboot?
I would say a reboot is like you start a thing over, essentially, right? Like you decide we're gonna like that wasn't great. Let's do it again. Now sometimes though you said it's got cloudy because there's times when something just gets readapted and that's not really a reboot.
Yes, which I have a lot of thoughts on.
You have a lot of thoughts on, and I'm the same way because I used to think of this as or reboots. We used to call them remakes, I guess, back in the day.
Yes.
And there are things I used to always be like remakes in general are shitty would be my opinion, right? Like I used to be like you remake a movie. What's the point? What are you going to do that's different?
Until they're not,
Until
right?
They're not.
We learned that's what we learned. But I think the poster child for this category is Battlestar Galactica, right? So the original Battlestar Galactica was meh. It was a 70s
I'll give you that. Although I would also say 1982's The Thing.
Sure.
Used to be my caveat for the only good remake that was ever made was 1982's The Thing. But in retrospect, I've changed my opinion, and I don't really even think it's a remake. I think it's a
an adaptation.
A new adaptation of the source material is what it is.
Which is another category we'll get to in 1 second. But yeah, I think Battlestar Galactica was the first time we really heard the term reboot.
Yeah.
Because it was the early 2000s and it was, all computery.
Right.
And they really did take the 70s show and made it.
Well, they kept all the character names and all that.
But it was an entirely new story, right?
Yeah. And it was definitely like, I think what really made it work was this was like post 9/11. And there was all this like, because we had this language going on in our society of you're either with us or you're against us kind of thing.
Right.
And who can we trust and all that shit. And that really played in to what made that new Battlestar Galactica like really fucking work for us was it examine the idea of what does it mean to be a human being.
Right.
And who do you accept as your own and who don't you and what's that connection and blah blah blah. And it was so fucking brilliant. And I mean, and brilliantly cast. Everybody on it was awesome.
God, yeah. No, that series. I think that really was the first modern sci-fi series that led to a resurrection of sci-fi as a genre. Because
it was just so fucking good.
Yeah, the acting. And what I particularly think is that the cast and character-driven stories is critical. Like absolutely.
It's always the case for sci-fi should be two things. It should be character driven, and it should be a metaphor for telling something that's going on in our current society, but removed enough for us to be able to see it objectively. Those are the two things that good sci-fi does.
If only a lot of people actually did that. That would be great.
But I remember because I had to sell this show to my wife, right? I said to Emily, I was like, "Hey, I want to watch this show." Battlestar Galactica. She's, what's that? I'm like, she's like, it's a space show, right? I'm like, she hates outer space. That's the setup for this.
I've recently learned a lot of people do, and that's weird to me.
But I had to be like, no, it's about people.
Yeah.
They just live in outer space.
Right.
Outer space is the setting, but it's about people. It's about characters. And she was like, all right, we'll see. And then she ended up loving it.
Right?
You know,
it's fucking amazing.
I mean, there might be 2 episodes where she's really uncomfortable. She doesn't like the idea of not being able to breathe.
That's fair. And yeah, in that show, there was a fair amount of that.
Because
there's a whole episode about that.
Well, they use that as a punishment sometimes. Like they put somebody in the airlock and blow them out into space, and then they suffocate to death, basically.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah, but that's the only other person I know who said they hate, and I quote, "I hate space." That's their thing too. Like
I don't like the idea of not being
idea of space, and it just seems so weird. Like you know, you do you, boo, but it just seems weird to me.
Right. I don't think she loves submarine movies either for the same reason.
All right. So really quick, because we are running out of time, and we are going to have to do another episode of this eventually. I want to get to retellings / adaptations.
Oh lordy, yeah, we're gonna go crazy.
Yeah, because here's the thing: I've had this argument with so many people. So a lot of people feel very, very strongly about adaptations or retellings, and this has come to light most recently, right? Because the new Dune movie, and everybody's talking about the new Dune movie. And is the new Dune movie? Is it a reboot of the David Lynch movie? Is it a retelling of the novels? Like, what is it? And I think a lot of people are really struggling with that. Uh-huh. And I think that's bullshit. Like, it's clearly an adaptation of the novels. And it's not Lynch's adaptation of the novels. It's this guy's adaptation of the novels. And so nobody should be comparing it. That shouldn't even be a question.
Yeah.
Why are we having this conversation? Why are people worried about spoilers? Like, don't worry about spoilers. The movie's been out, the books have been out since the 60s.
Yeah.
You had ample opportunity to read them.
Yeah. And I never read them nor watched a Dune movie nor TV show nor anything. So I have no dog in this fight. I don't care about Dune. I'll probably see it, but I don't care.
This one sounds like it's really good. So like if you want an entry point into the Dune series, this sounds like
I'll watch
it.
Whatever. I mean, I'm aware it's there's worms in a desert or some shit. Mm-hmm. Like and apparently
like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. It's basically Beetlejuice, right? Like,
Beetlejuice mashed up with Star Wars.
I think that's what it is.
That's what it is.
That's the way I understand it. Which is why I've never been interested. Because
it is a very good. Apparently, this is a very good adaptation of it.
All right. So no, I'm fair with that. You know what? I want to talk about retellings while we're on retellings.
Yeah.
One of my favorite retellings is telling the same story from another perspective.
Oh, I love that.
And this has been there's been a rash of this lately. Ever since the Broadway musical, it started with a book called Wicked, which was adapted into a Broadway musical.
Yes. Yes.
But ever since that happened, then Disney went ape shit, and they've been taking all their villain stories and going back and like, let's tell the same story from the villain's perspective now. I just saw Cruella last week, by the way.
Nice.
And I was like, how are they going to redeem this fucking character? She wants to kill dogs.
Right. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard sell.
But let me tell you, I ended up loving the movie. I was like, this is actually really good. It appealed to me on the basis of punk rock. Sorry, that was the thing that got me. Like they made her character come of age in the early 70s in England, and yeah. And then they pulled in this sort of like punk rock aesthetic, and I was like, all right, fuck it, all right, I'm down with her, you know. Shit.
All right, I guess I'll have to watch it. Not that I was avoiding it, I just hadn't gotten around to it.
Yeah, no, but it turns out it was okay. But yeah, Disney. You know, I feel like Wicked was the kernel of.
I agree.
Well, actually, I'll roll it back. You know what the real thing was? All it took them 20 years to like catch on and start doing it over again was Grendel.
Oh,
Grendel by John Gardner, which was a retelling of Beowulf from the perspective of the monster.
Yes.
Yes. I will say this also: the 13th Warrior.
I was just about to say that.
Which I read the novel, which was called Eaters of the Dead by John Crichton.
Yes.
First off, I love the Beowulf story, and secondly, I love it from 9 different perspectives. Like the idea of like that. I don't know. I
agree.
Loved
Eaters of the Dead is actually one of my all-time favorite books. I thought it was great. I thought the 13th Warrior was really
a pretty well done adaptation of a novel. Actually, I think they should have kept I think they should have kept the name. That's actually one of
I agree.
One of my faults with it is that they changed the title although it's interesting to me that they changed the 13th Warrior, which led me to understand that like Tolkien actually ripped that theme of how the Vikings, when they were going on a quest, they like to have 12 members, and they would find a 13th person who needed to be an outsider of some sort, to join them, for luck reasons or something. I don't know, or maybe just to bring another perspective to the whole thing. I don't know, like makes sense if you think about it. But anyway, so that's the whole thing with the dwarves going to raid the dragons,
but they needed Bilbo.
Because he's an outsider.
Yeah.
So anyway. Just want to bring that out there. Throw that little kernel.
It's a good kernel.
Okay.
So 13th Warrior, we weren't gonna talk about that. I did not know that was coming up, but I absolutely love this book, and I love the movie, and I love everything.
It was a great story.
There was a great in the book, and this is, I mean, it's, I guess, based on Viking mythology. There's at the very beginning of the book, there's a Viking funeral, and they do this Viking funeral liturgy. It's like, lo, before me is my ancestors, yada, 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 whatever it is. Like, a lot of pagan people, it's from a Michael Crichton book, but people have used that in their funeral services.
Crichton does his research. He doesn't come into this shit like blind.
No, so, but it's so good.
Some of this is actually based on actual writings from both Vikings and from the Middle East. Because the Viking Rus, who were on the lower Rus River or whatever that goes all the way down towards Turkey.
Yeah,
they actually did trade. It's crazy. I don't know. Look into it. No, if you're interested in that kind of shit, look into it.
It's a great fucking.
It's very deep.
So and pertinent to your interest, Heather. Eaters of the Dead / 13th Warrior. Apparently, both of us love that.
I've got 2 copies of that book on my bookshelf.
I saw the movie first because I didn't read Michael Crichton, like he was on my reading list.
Oh yeah.
And I saw the movie first, and I was like, "This is fucking awesome!" And that was like especially in my early days of like I was practicing Wicca, so I was like, "This shit is awesome." But then I bought the book, and it was like the movie, like the post movie book, so it had. Like the cover was a movie photo and it said 13th Warrior and then subtitle Eaters of the Dead.
Right.
So that was the first
I
time
actually read it. I read it on because I had read several of the Crichton novels and it was on the heels of that, and I looked it up and I was like, this seems like an interesting story. Yeah. And then I found out it was basically Beowulf, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, and I also love Beowulf anyway, right? Like so yeah. All right, but retellings, I want to say before we go. So several years ago on the internet, I got in an argument because people were wrong on the internet and I couldn't stand it.
People were wrong on the internet.
That's what the internet's for, right? But so Netflix a few years ago decided they did an adaptation of Anne of Green Gables. It was called Anne with an E, right? Anne of Green Gables, of course, is a beloved story, especially for like tween girls. It was published in the early 1900s, right? So people love this. And in the 80s, there was a movie version that is absolutely beloved. People love this version. So when the Netflix series came out, people lost their shit. Lost their shit over it. And actually, I watched the first 2 episodes originally, and I was like, I don't know. I like the original. And I realized they were separate. But then I went back and watched it, and I was like, this shit's great. But the issue was people were like, well, don't mess with perfection. Don't mess with what's already been there. And I'm like, yeah, but why can't some movie makers decide to tell their version of the same story? Like that doesn't. I mean, like that just restricts art.
I get it, dude. You know, I felt that way when Kenneth Branagh, like 2 or 3 years ago, came out with a version of Orient Express.
Yes, and I have not watched that, but I do love Kenneth Branagh.
I couldn't get and I love Kenneth Branagh, but at the same time, I also love the guy from who was on the BBC as Hercule Poirot.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I can't wrap my head like that guy is Hercule Poirot to me.
Right.
And I can't I don't want to start over with somebody else being Hercule Poirot.
Sure.
Sometimes that's the thing that happens to you is you're like, nah, I don't know, man. That guy's always going to be that character to me. know?
Yeah. No, and that was exactly what it was with the Anne of Green Gables, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Megan follows. People were like, Megan Follows is the best, but you know what? She did a great job. It was a good movie. I loved it too, but this is just a different version. And it brought up the conversation because I actually every year around the same time, my Facebook memories remind me of this conversation. So I remember it all the time. And one of the arguments that was made was, why are we angry about certain adaptations, but not about others? Like, and the example was A Christmas Carol. Every year, some version of A Christmas Carol comes out, whether it's a really good version or like a Hallmark movie version, or like a woman executive finds true love in a sleepy town, but it's still the same story, right? Like, it's always the same story. But we don't get mad about that. We're just like, yep, another Christmas Carol. We love it. But like, why do we feel that way? Why are we so threatened by certain versions and not others?
It's funny about that, because like I was saying this before the show, and we talked about this too, because I actually, my favorite version of A Christmas Carol is Scrooged with Bill Murray. I watch that every Christmas.
And nobody's angry about that.
Because that's the best version.
Well,
I mean, anything since then, I kind of like, what's the point? They
already
made the
Christmas
best.
Carol, motherfuckers. Muppet Christmas Carol.
And
100%.
I mean,
man.
Does it have David Johansen from the New York Dolls in it?
No,
as a taxi cab driver?
It has Michael Caine, and it has the Muppets. It has everything you ever
Michael
wanted.
Caine's pretty good. That's
true. It's good. It's
okay.
Good. All right, challenge.
Uh-huh.
This year, you watch Muppet Christmas Carol, and I watch Scrooge.
Okay, we'll do that.
I haven't watched Scrooge in years, so.
All right.
And then just tell me. Yeah, we'll regroup at the Christmas episode.
Okay.
So
we'll talk about that. Yeah, but also people you say people don't do this with Shakespeare adaptations. Like nobody's like, I mean, you probably have your favorite, like me personally, and even though this guy's problematic as fuck, the Roman Polanski version of Macbeth is a really good damn movie. It doesn't make me get mad when they make another version of Macbeth though, like when they make Scotland, Pennsylvania, or whatever the fuck. Like,
sure,
I don't know,
right, exactly.
But Roman Polanski
Also,
already made the best version.
Great shout out to Scotland, Pennsylvania. Like that's one. If you never heard of that, you should watch that.
You should watch it. It's Macbeth.
It is
with Kyle MacLachlan, who was in Dune,
exactly,
the sucky version.
The sucky version. Well, right. Like I have a favorite.
I mentioned Kyle MacLachlan 3 times in this episode.
True. That should be. We should. The next graphic we should have is a Kyle MacLachlan countdown. We'll just make Kyle MacLachlan 1, Kyle MacLachlan 2, Kyle MacLachlan 3. That might involve a lot more production on my part, but let's do that. No, I love. I mean, we all love Shakespeare. Who doesn't love Shakespeare, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure people don't love Shakespeare.
I mean, somebody probably doesn't.
But Much Ado About
They don't go to the park in the summer.
That's right. Much Ado About Nothing is my favorite Shakespeare play. And I've seen dozens of adaptations of it, from free Shakespeare in the Park and the Kenneth Branagh version I think is the best. But I also even though this guy turned out problematic as fuck, I like the Joss Whedon version too. Mm-hmm. But nobody complains about it. I can't believe they're doing another Much Ado About Nothing.
Can't believe they're doing that again.
God damn it! Why are we making another Hamlet?
Can you believe I saw a version of Taming of the Shrew with Heath Ledger and
Julia Stiles.
Julia Stiles, one of my favorite actresses, actually.
I do like Julia Stiles.
Yeah, I like her because she's you know what? She's just pretty enough. She's pretty enough to be the girl who lives down the street, but not so pretty that you're suspicious of how pretty she is.
Honestly, I actually hate to agree with you because I think your definition is a little whack, but that's kind of why I like her too, because she's she feels like an aspiration. I could do that.
Yeah.
She's not too pretty that
I can't do that. She's pretty in an approachable way is what I'm trying to say, right?
Exactly.
I've always liked her. I've never seen a movie with her in it that I didn't like.
You know what I like? The one where she went to the dance school and
we watch that all the time. My wife watches it. She loves that movie.
Love that one.
So we see it all the time.
That is kind of totally off the rails. All right, we are so out of time.
I know we can talk about it. I said before we started, we're not going to even.
We're going to do a part 2
this.
After the holidays.
Oh my
we'll
gosh!
Get to part 2 and a part 3 because there's we haven't talked.
Oh my god!
On the list, we haven't talked about any of this.
We barely got down the list.
That's true.
So we'll have a Retellings, Reboots, and Sequels part 2.
The reboot or the sequel or the retelling, however you want to view it.
Yeah.
All right. In the meantime, I know because Bill told me before the show.
Oh my God.
He's got something extra.
Something extra tonight.
Yes, things that are extra tonight.
Let me tell you something. All right, I got an email this morning from HR, and they said, "Here are your rates for insurance this year." And I looked at them, and I was like, oh, "Motherfuckers! These motherfuckers basically canceled out my last year's raise by making me pay for fucking insurance this year." So, yeah. When they're crying 6 months from now because I went and got another damn job because nobody wants to work anymore. It's because nobody wants to pay for work anymore, assholes. Like, fucking offer benefits. Here's the thing. So here's the thing. I'll tell you. As a backup, my company got bought out by a larger company back around the first of the year, okay? And we've been in this process of merging, and they've massaged my fucking job title 5 times in the meantime, and I'm not happy about my job anyway because of that, because I'm not doing what I was hired to do anymore. But secondly, I was like, oh, I'll give it a chance. We'll see what happens. I'm like, we're a larger company. Maybe our benefits will be better because I had shitty insurance. I'll say this. I had shitty insurance, but it was free. And then today I got the thing, and guess what? We're keeping the same shitty insurance, but now it's going to cost me $60 a paycheck, which amounts to my last goddamn raise, basically. So I'm pissed off, and I'm like, all right, fuck you, motherfuckers. And I spent the entire damn day on Indeed looking for new jobs, and that's what's going to happen. So yeah, just to prospective employers out there, and it's funny because I'm thinking about something your partner Matt told me last time we were talking. He was like, this is the reason he doesn't like working for fucking public companies. And you know what? This larger company is a public traded company. And that's exactly what the fuck's going on. It's more important to them to give the fucking shareholders another $10 a month or whatever the fuck than it is for them to give me fucking insurance. Yep. Well, good riddance. Good day, sir, because I'm going to be gone. And they're going to have to find somebody who knows how to do the shit I can do.
Yeah, preach it, Brother Bill.
Anyway,
yeah. I agree.
Power to the people's
Power to the people.
Yes. Yeah, I'm signing up for data analysts local 507 now, and we're gonna take this shit down. That's what's gonna happen. All
right, we can do that. And I think that is precisely the note we should end on.
Yeah.
Also, never forget. Wait! Before we totally close out the show. We'll be back next week with our very special Thanksgiving Part 2. Speaking of sequels, we're going to do a Thanksgiving episode next weekend. And very special Thanksgiving because we're going to try a full Thanksgiving dinner of candy corn live on air.
She saved the candy corn.
I did. I bought the Thanksgiving dinner candy corn and I saved it specifically. So we will enjoy an actual Thanksgiving dinner of candy corn on air. You can watch our reactions real time.
I'm looking so forward to that.
Delicious is not the word I would use for it, but we will talk about that next week. So we'll be back on Monday, of course. So Bill, will you take us away? Sure thing. Bill Has Opinions is introduced. It was introduced, but also engineered and produced by Laura. That makes it. Introduced by Laura Lavoie. Who am I? How many beers have we had? I don't know. I guess they're starting to kick in. What was I saying? Engineered and produced. Yeah. The opinions of Bill are those of his and his alone, unless she shook her head in agreement, in which case then they agreed and whatever, and this vice versa. I mean, I don't know nothing about Dune or Anna Green Gables, though. I'll be honest with you. You should watch both of them. I'll watch them both and see what I think. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Facebook or Meta. On Meta. Is that what we're calling it now? Yes. Is that a remake or a reboot? I don't know. It's all fucked up. It's a retelling. It's a retelling. Anyways. Be sure to do all those things. Hashtag Opinion Gang if you want to talk about us on any of the social medias. Talk about us on social medias if you don't mind. Please do. Yes, we would enjoy that very much. Stir up some controversy, maybe. Get some more viewership here. Tell them how funny we really are. Yeah, and we're funnier when you drink, so don't forget that. We're also funnier when we drink. Both those things. Everybody needs to be drinking. Have a drink.
Anyways, you gotta tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll have another episode about Thanksgiving, apparently.
Yes.
Which we actually know this week what next week's going to be about. So how about that?
It's easy to tell this week.
Yeah.
Because next week is also, if you don't know, Thanksgiving is next week, so you should plan your dinner now.
Oh yeah, you should probably go ahead and put that turkey in the oven. Those things take a long time to defrost.
That's true. At least take it out of your freezer. I actually had a client today. This is a sidebar. I had a client today. I messaged him and said, because I only talk to him once a month, I said, have a happy Thanksgiving. And he said, good grief, Thanksgiving is next week and I'm hosting. Like, he literally didn't know. And I'm like,
oh, snap. I got to do a thing.
All right. So Thanksgiving is next week and we will see you then. And join us at that time.
Gobble, gobble.
Love you all. Bye.